Hello and welcome to Calculus 1. I'm your instructor Scott Daugherty, and in this video I'm just going to give you a brief orientation into my lab. So in my lab you have these buttons on the left hand side. I'm just going to go over each of these. The first one is a course home and announcements button. When you click on it, it'll pull up the course calendar. And you'll see some icons here. This icon indicates that there's been an announcement that I've made. I'll be making announcements throughout the course, so you should check for those. They'll be listed down here as well at the bottom of the calendar. When I send out an announcement, I also send it to your email address, the one that you've posted in my lab. So you should also check your email if you want to keep up with the announcements. This little orange box is the due date for the orientation quiz. Now I'm making this video for my spring 2022 class. So if you're in a different class in the future, you should check the due dates for your class because they may be a little different. The icons should be the same. And of course, you can flip through different months here. This is the month of February, and then you can see this little green diamond is the due date for test 1, which you can see down here as well. And then the little blue circles are the due dates for certain homework assignments. Okay, so I'll let you look at that. You can look through, March and April as well, and there's due dates listed there as well. The next button is the orientation button. This pulls up an orientation document, which I made for this class. Of course, it's not pulling up at the moment. There it is. And I'm just going to highlight some things here. You should read through most of this, but I'm going to highlight some of the major points in this document. Again, there'll be an orientation quiz that you'll have to take before a certain date. For this particular class, it's January 31st. You should check the date if you're in a future class. But if you don't take it by that particular day, you'll be dropped from the class. And then I've got some information about the buttons that I'm talking about now in my lab. The only other thing I want to mention here is in terms of contacting me, I've got my cell phone number. You're more than welcome to text me at that number, or you can also send me an email at this email address here. And then in terms of tests, tests will be taken at your home without a proctor online in my lab. And I'll show you how to access this in my lab. But when you access it, it'll pull this up and it'll ask for a password. And so the different passwords are listed here, and it's simply, for test 1, the password is test 1. For test 2, it's test 2, and so on. And then for final exam, it's final exam. So if you forget the passwords, they're listed here in the orientation document. Okay, this is the orientation video that you're looking at now. This is a course calendar that I've made outside of my math lab, and I've attached it to my lab. That used to be called my math lab. And these are just suggested dates for you to sort of complete the homework assignments. So 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, those are all homework assignments. This is just kind of a guide for you to keep up with the homework. These are not the actual due dates. The due dates for Chapter 2 homework will be February 7th, which is the day of the first test. And Test 1 is over Chapter 2. So the idea is that you get all the homework done before you take the test for Chapter 2. And then I do have a practice test online, and I'll show you where to access that. But I also have a recommended sort of date for getting that done as well before you take the test. And you can see, again, the due date is listed here for the test. And that's how this calendar works. The next chapter, Chapter 3, these are just suggested due dates for working out the sections for Chapter 3. And then a suggested date for doing the practice test. But once you complete all the homework for Chapter 3, then you should be ready to sort of take Test 2, which is over Chapter 3. And then all of that stuff is officially due by March 12th. The homework for Chapter 3 and Test 2, which is over Chapter 3. Okay, so that's how you should use this calendar. It's sort of a guide for you to work through the sections, and then sort of the due dates for the test, then the corresponding homework as well. And you can see the final exam is due May 12th, and that would include, much everything for the course. That'll be the last day of the class, May 12th. So you must get the final exam done by that day. Okay, the next button goes over the syllabus. Now, the syllabus is pretty long, so I'll let you read through most of that. Let me just highlight some things here. I have my office listed here. It's an F340 on the Montgomery campus. And then these are my office hours. But this is, again, for this particular class, so you should check it if you're in a future class. This is my office phone number and my email address again. This is some information about registering for my lab, but you've already done that if you're watching this video, probably. If not, you can read through that. And if you need any technical support, like you haven't run into any problems with my lab, this is a link that you can use. In terms of the grades, we'll have 4 tests, which will constitute 60% of your grade. We'll have a final exam, which is comprehensive, so it covers everything in the class, and that's worth 20%. And the homework, which is in my lab, will be 20% as well. And of course, I use the typical 10-point scale for your letter grade. You should be aware of the withdrawal date for your class. For this particular class, it's April 6th. Of course, that can be different if you're in a future class. This is the last day you can withdraw from the class without, having to receive a letter grade. And then also listed in the syllabus will be the date at which you need to take the orientation quiz in order to stay in the class. So you should check that as well. Okay, so I'm just going to let you read through the rest of this. It's got lots of good information in it. If you need it, it's a good place to look for it is in the syllabus, or maybe the orientation document that I showed you earlier. Okay, so the next button is the assignments button. This is where you'll have all the assignments listed, including the orientation quiz and all of the tests. So let me talk about the homework first. So these are the different homework sections. And when you pull up a homework section, let me just pull up one of these, like this one here. This particular section has 15 questions in it, and when you pull up one of the questions here, it's going to look something like this. Let me pull up a different one. Let's see. Okay, so one like this. You can see at the bottom here, it's got a couple of buttons. This is the Help Me Solve This button. And what that'll do is it'll take this particular problem and it'll go step by step and try and help you solve it, but you'll have to enter in the answers as you go along. Whereas View an Example will pull up a problem that's similar to it, but has different numbers. And that will actually go through and solve every step and show you how to solve it. You won't have to enter in any of the answers. But then when you're done looking at View an Example, you'll have to go back and actually work out this problem. And again, if you wanted to, you could use Help Me Solve This to help you work through this particular problem. So that's the difference between those two. And then I have a Get More Help button here. This one allows you to look at a video from my lab about this particular problem. And it also directs you towards the textbook section where this problem comes from, so you can read through the textbook if you need help. And then the Ask My Instructor button is really nice, a really nice feature. It will send this problem to me so I can read it, and then you can just make comments about what you're having difficulties with. And that's really nice because it makes it really easier for me to answer the question if you can actually send the problem as well as your comments. So I suggest that you use that, particularly when you don't really understand it after looking at the Help Me Solve This and View an Example. Okay, so that's what the homework looks like. And let me just pull up the test. By the way, the quiz is here as well. The orientation quiz is listed here near the bottom. Notice you have an unlimited number of attempts on the quiz. So it's not even graded. You do have to take it in order to remain in the class before whatever date is listed in my lab. You can see the practice final is listed here as well, and I've got a time limit on this, but I think I'm going to change that, make it unlimited, and it shows that you only have one attempt, but I'm going to change that so that you have an unlimited number of attempts on there. And this is all the homework. And then the actual tests are listed here. Okay, and I've got a practice test for each one, and the practice tests are going to be unlimited, not graded. But the test itself, you only have one attempt at, and there will be a time limit on the test. When you pull the test up, it will ask you for that password I mentioned before, and that's listed in the orientation document if you forget what the password is. Then also, this is actually the practice final with the unlimited number of attempts. Remember, that is not graded. None of the practice exams are graded. And then the actual final exam, the comprehensive final exam, is listed here as well. And then you have a time limit for that as well. And notice you only have one attempt on that as well. Okay, the next button here will pull up a link that goes to my YouTube channel where I've made videos for the class. And so the way I want you to sort of work through this is, let's say you're working on 3.1. So you should go to my YouTube channel and look at the lecture videos that I have from section 3.1, and then you can start working on the homework from 3.1, and then use the tutorial, the learning tutorial there. And if you need to, you can use the Ask My Instructor button if you need any help with the homework. Also, not only do I have lecture videos for each section, which you should watch before you start on the homework, but I also have certain homework problems from my lab worked out. So you may want to look at that YouTube channel to help get some assistance with particular homework problems. Now, I don't have every homework problem worked out on a video, but I do have several, so you should take a look at that as well. Okay, the next button is the Multimedia Library button. I think the only reason you might use this is to pull up videos from my lab, which are different than the videos that I've made. The videos I've made are on my YouTube channel, which again, you can pull up under this button. If you want to pull up the videos that my lab has, you can use this, click on video, and then just search for it by like chapter and section. And you can see it's broken down by topic. The very first one, I believe, is all of the videos all at once. They're listed below, or you could just watch them individually one at a time, which is kind of nice because you can focus in on a particular topic and then maybe work on the homework associated with it. So that's also an option. You could watch these videos instead of mine, whichever you prefer, or you can go back and forth between them, whatever you think is the most useful way of sort of learning the content. That's fine. And then these are the My Math Lab homework videos that I mentioned before. And then, so that just brings you to the YouTube channel that I have. And then these are recommended YouTube videos that I've just sort of used to, I found them on YouTube, and you can just use them to supplement the videos that I already have in my lab and the ones that I've made on my YouTube channel. And so these are just pulled from YouTube. I mean, you could search for YouTube and find these videos. They're public videos that I just pulled up. And I kind of wrote down the topics that are associated with them. And so you could use this sort of just to focus in on a particular topic if you needed more help, right, with another video. Or you could just search for YouTube videos on a particular topic and pull up the ones that you like. But these are the ones I sort of pulled up and I thought were pretty good. Of course, the next button is where you'll find your grade book. Under this button, if you press Show Calculation, it will break down your grade by category. And of course, the homework, as you remember, is worth 20 points. The test is worth 60. And then notice it says quiz here. That's actually where I put the final exam. I put the final exam under the quiz category because there was no other option. That is not the orientation quiz. The orientation quiz is not graded. You do have to take the orientation quiz to stay in the class, but it's not graded. So this is not the orientation quiz, right? This is the final exam. At the end of the semester, it'll show what you make on that final. So the way this works is this is where your average will be for the particular category. So let's say you have like a 50% on the homework, then 50% of 20 will be 10, and this is the number of points that you earned out of 20. So it'll show 10 out of 20 if you make a 50% on the homework. And so if you add up all the points earned over here, this will be your total grade. Okay. The next button is basically the textbook, electronic textbook. You just click on ebook. It's an exact copy of the actual physical textbook, and it's interactive. If you want, you can pull up the static book, which is sort of the same thing, but there's no interactive sort of things going on with that textbook. And then you can pull up stuff in the book by chapter as well. Basically, the next three buttons here are basically pulling up the textbook in some form or fashion. The next button is the Tools for Success button. There's probably not a lot here that you want to look at. Nothing here is required, but there is a graphing calculator manual for the TI graphing calculators. If you happen to have one, you can use this to help you learn how to use it. And then another thing here you might want to look at is this single variable calculus review card. This is kind of just a snapshot of all the different formulas and things that we use in calculus. So it might be a useful sort of reference. Okay. And I don't think there's anything else here that is of particular interest for our class. So I think those are the only two things that you might be interested in looking at under this button. All right, the next button is where I have recorded WebEx lectures. In the past, I've had some WebEx lectures for this class, and I don't have it for every section, but I do have it for several sections in Chapter 2, Chapter 4, and Chapter 5. So these are optional. They're pretty long videos because they're like 2.5 hour long, like WebEx lecture classes. So you can look at those if you want, but they're not required. I think it'd be better to look at the lectures that I have under the YouTube channel because they're like shorter and they're more focused on a particular idea from these sections. Okay, and I think that's pretty much the rest of it. You won't see some of these buttons on your end because these are for the instructor side only. Okay, so that's just a brief orientation into my lab. Your first assignment is to go ahead and take the orientation quiz as soon as you can if you want to remain in the class. And then after that, you should start watching the videos from, I guess the first section would be 2.2 under my YouTube channel. And again, you can access those under the videos button here. And then after you watch the video for that particular section, you should start working on the homework from section 2.2. And if you need any help, just let me know. You can email me or text me, or you can send me an email through that Ask My Instructor button if you run into any problems with the homework. Okay, so just make sure you reach out to me if you need help with anything. And then I hope you have a great semester, and I look forward to talking with you in the future. Bye-bye.